All right, everybody, welcome back. You've got the Paul Wedding Show tuned into FM 92.7, AM 1400, WDTK, The Patriot. I have on the line with me, nationally known expert, friend of the show, Dr. Wendy Schwartz. We're discussing worry, stress, and anxiety. And in a couple of seconds, I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Schwartz and let her go into some of the keys that you can put into your life, practice on a daily basis to circumvent and calm this action of worry down. Dr. Schwartz, I will tell people, or people will tell me something about things that they worry about. And, I've heard somebody will be sitting around on a Sunday evening and they have the sniffles. And, they say, I know myself well. And before you know it, Monday they have a cough, and then Tuesday it's in their lungs, and then Friday they got to call in sick. And then by Monday they have full-blown pneumonia, and by a week from Friday the house payment's going to be late. And they have all this stuff in their head, and they're worried about all this stuff, all because they sneezed. How do you get people to take worry and keep it in perspective?
Well, as we talked about, there's a difference between rational and irrational thoughts. Take the flu, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
All over California, everybody is freaking out about the flu. So take the beginning stages of looking at the news. And the news kind of sets the seed of fear. Everybody's getting the flu. Wherever you go, you should stay home. If you're coughing, you should stay home and keep your kids home and don't go out of the house and create such fear and anxiety. So they set the seed of fear and anxiety, and then it's just a simple little suggestion that your brain gets hooked on. And some people can release it and let it go, and others hold on to it and then somaticize the behavior. So then all of a sudden you get a stomach ache and a headache, and you can actually, your brain is so powerful, it can create the very thing that your brain has the little seed of suggestion just by just hearing the word flu. And so then it snowballs into this, what looks like the real flu. But sometimes people can't differentiate reality from the suggestion. So it looks like they have the flu, they have a temperature, but that same kind of power can also shift into positive. And I think it's really important for people to know. I have a lot of clients that say, oh, I think I'm getting sick. Well, I think I'm just, I feel like this, or I heard people are coughing on me all day, so I think I'm going to get sick. If you put it into the world, if the words that we use are so powerful. And so sometimes people get fixated on the negative, the flu, a cold, illness, whatever it is. And instead of hearing something and letting that go and shifting it to positive, which is, self-positive talk, like I'm healthy. I do everything, under self-care that I need to do. I exercise. I get enough sleep. I, talk to my friends about my problems. I go to therapy, or I take medication or vitamins, whatever it is. We do have control over things when we do feel overwhelmed, and that's important to think about.
Yeah, some of the things that I talk to people about are, one of the things is be careful what you reach for, because I think all too often when we do get overwhelmed, that this idea that if we have a cocktail, that cocktail is going to relax us and we can think better, or we're going to feel better. Now, if that's true, it was never in my case, but I guess, if some people sit down and have a cocktail, is there some sort of a window that provides some relief for people, Dr. Schwartz?
Are you saying specifically with alcohol?
Yeah, or is this just a silly misnomer about? Because anytime I've sat down to try to kill stress, and I ended up having a cocktail. Well, that cocktail ended up being 4 or 5 more, and all of a sudden I was surrounded by people that had the same problems I did, and it was 2:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right, and it can happen so quickly. It's that addictive behavior, or I think some people can have a cocktail and be fine, and then others, can have more, and before you know it, it becomes a very serious problem. I think that it's based on physiological or genetic components. They're really funny. My mother is recovering for over 35 years. And so I grew up in an alcoholic home. And so now I'm very blessed and grateful because I don't only just get part one of my mom, who was the alcoholic and really impacted our home, but I got part two, which was at 8 years old. I was 8 when my mom became sober, and it changed our lives forever.
Right.
So I was lucky because I got the sober mom as well. And she really role modeled for me how to handle anxiety, stress, worry without numbing out. And that was, a lot of important information for me. She used a lot of exercise. She educated herself. She did a lot of spiritual work. She worked her program. And to this day, she's a wonderful role model in my life.
Fantastic. Dr. Schwartz, we're coming down to a couple minutes, and I have a question that came via email for you. And it's going back real quick to Lance Armstrong. This lady wants to know, why is it that we don't, we have a whole lot of trouble forgiving the person that we're married to or so on. We don't want to forgive them. But it's these celebrities that we see on TV. Why is it so easy to forgive these people and not the people that we're sworn to love?
It's a great question. I think that it's easier to forgive people that we don't know. It's the fantasy of... Huh?
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, it's intimacy. If you think about it, it's very intimate for me to forgive my husband or my child or a best friend. That there's a lot at stake. I do a lot of work with boys and teenage boys or young men or even adult men, and they feel like forgiveness feels like weakness. And I think gender is really important, but I think that it's so easy to say, I forgive. You may think it's a very heavy burden to say, we should crucify Lance Armstrong because he made a mistake. He's done some incredible things in the world. He's healed, he's gone through cancer. He gives to amazing charities. And I don't know him, by the way, so I couldn't answer 3 cycling questions if you asked me. But I don't know anything about sports, but I do know that he's done some really wonderful things, in life as far as role modeling. And I don't want teenage boys or, anyone to come away with the idea that just because he messed up in one area, it doesn't mean that he's not a good human being. And I think forgiveness is huge, and I think we should all continue to be mindful of how to be more forgiving in all areas of our life, including our very close loved ones, because we want to better ourselves.
Yeah, and I think when people do look to Lance Armstrong and other individuals like that, the fact that they know how to kick a football or ride a bicycle or do whatever is a wonderful thing. But like you were mentioning, the other things that Lance Armstrong does, fighting cancer, contributing to one charity after another, just doing so many things in his community and surrounding community, is really something that we need to be looking at, as opposed to this person, another human being, falling down like the rest of us do.
Right. I think it's role modeling that we can all be human and that we all make mistakes. And in life, nobody's perfect. And I love that nobody's perfect because, I think we all have something to learn from each other. And being anxious and worried and stressed is just part of life, but it's how you handle it. So one of the things, like I said, is exercise is very important. Self-care, going to the doctor, making sure you're up on your appointments. Leaning on good friends and
Dr. Schwartz,
therapy.
Dr. Schwartz,
Yep.
The music is up, and I am out of time. I will be getting a hold of you after the show so we can set up what we're going to do next time. Dr. Schwartz, thanks so much.
Thanks, Paul.